Good day, and you're welcome to this lesson. So, please settle down and let's get ready for this interesting session. In this particular lesson, will be exploring how journalists and media professionals use visual systems to communicate data, trends, processes, and complex information. During a health crisis, two organizations publishes the same statistics. They first published long paragraph, dense numbers, technical explanations, and most readers they ignored it. The second publisher published a simple chart, color-coded visuals, icons, and timelines. Within hours, millions understand the message. Immediately, same information, different presentation, different impact. So in the modern media, visual do not merely support information. They shape understanding, they influence understanding itself. They also encourage and motivate viewers to, engage content. Now, today's information age that we're here in, and today's lecture, it will help us understand how infographics is shaping understanding in today's world, how it is transforming complex information into simple, easy to comprehend, easy to stick to brain visual communication, and how it appeals to audience, especially how they can quickly process and remember this information. All right, let me know that you are here. Scan the QR code and engage. Thank you. Now, like I mentioned, we're looking at infographics and visual communication, visual data communication. Let me test your understanding of this. What is the primary purpose of infographics? Is it decoration only, replacing journalism entirely, or simplifying communication through visually? Simplifying and communicating information visually, or increasing article length? Which of this is the answer? Put the answer in the chat box. Put the answer in the chat box. All right, the answer is simplifying and communicating information visually. So by the end of this lecture, you should be able to define infographics, visual data communication, identify major types of infographics, explain principles of effective data visualization, and as well, we'll be analyzing strengths and weaknesses of infographics, and as well understanding the ethical concerns in visual data presentation. But first, what is infographics? By now, you should have an idea of what infographics is. It's the combination of information and graphics, info and graphics, info for information, graphics for graphics. Infographics, the use of information to design a graphics. Now, infographics is the visual representation of information, data, and or knowledge design to communicate quickly and clearly. I would say don't use and. It is a clear and clear-cut visual representation of information, data, or I would say and information and knowledge to design and communicate clearly and quickly. It is very important that you are transferring knowledge. It shouldn't be a question of and or. It should be a question of you are engaging, you're transferring knowledge, or you're posing questions that can help people make sense of things. All right. So infographics combine journalism, design, and communication strategy. Take note of that. It is important that you are clear on this part of it. It combines journalism, design, and communication strategy. And it presents data in charts, icons, maps, timelines, visual statistics. You get to understand more about this. I believe some of you have done economics, you've worked with data like bar charts, histogram, and all of those things. These are the importance of it. You find it in this course, and that's why part of the criteria or requirement for studying communication, media and communication, is the knowledge of mathematics, because you'll be working with numbers and you need to know how to present these numbers in the most effective and efficient way. So you'll be presenting it in charts, icons, maps, timelines, or visual statistics. Okay, now let's consider a question before us. Infographics, what does it combine? Is it only photograph, data and visual communication, audio editing alone, or printing technology? Only photograph, data visual, audio editing, print technology. What will be the answer? You can guess. Come on, put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Engage. Engage as soon as you're saying this. Put the option in the chat. Yes, the answer is data, visual, and visual communication. That is what it is. Combines data. It is data driven. Infographics is data driven. You see, every data, about 500, 1000 plus page, they can be compressed and be presented in just one graphics. Yeah, just like the summary, the insights. So now let's consider this. Why infographics matter? Why does it really matter? Why infographics matters? Now, infographics, it helps us simplify complex information, like I rightly said. It helps us improve memory retention. It increase audience engagement. Please take note of this. And it's communicate faster than others. The first thing is that it simplifies what is complex, difficult, that will take you time to process and understand. It's because someone else have done that work and they're presenting it in the most effective way for your own easy and efficient understanding. It helps improve memory retention, so that when you see it, it will stick to your brain. You remember the colors, you see the bar chart, you can imagine you see something later in this lecture that will help you comprehend what I'm explaining. And it increases audience engagement, meaning that the sharper, the better, the more effective the design is, the more engaged the audience will be. This is not a graphics presentation or graphics teaching. That is why it is just plain on black, plain and white. Not everyone will want to continue on this, except if they want to truly learn on, or they are chasing a mark. So you see, my slide is as simple as black and white to reduce distractions. You understand? So I'm here talking for engagements. You're reading to comprehend. When you understand the knowledge, you can then do something more creative, something beautiful, something that is outside the scope of pedagogy, outside the scope of lecture delivery or teaching delivery, because of your age group. You understand? With respect to their age group. Because of your age group, this is like this. If I was to teach this to primary school students, it would be more stylistic and engaging, colorful, so that they can retain it. So you have to think about the audience and how you want to engage them. And it helps you communicate faster. All right. What are the types of infographics? I've given you an insight before. We have statistical infographics, we have the timeline infographics, we have the process infographics, we have the geographical or map infographics, we have the comparison infographics. Now, what statistics does is that it reels out number. It gives you numbers for you to make some statistical comparison. Timeline infographics tells you the timeline, the storyline, the history of events. You understand? Right? Process shows you step by step process. Geographical or map infographic shows you a map. I'm showing you an example of a geographical or infographics in a bit. So now we have comparison infographics, where you're comparing two sets of data using infographics. So now what this does is that it provides some clear example. You use statistical infographics during the electioneering process, and then you use timeline to present data such as COVID-19 dashboard, and then statistical infographics even for that. You understand that? And then if you want to explain the steps on how to avoid it, how to prevent it, or what to do when you want have a as contracted HIV, COVID-19, or whatsoever it is. What you do is that you use processing infographics to guide them. Wash your hand, wake up when you get to a location before you open the door. Wash your hand after you open the door. Wash your hand. So like wash, open, wash. You understand? Marks stepping out, marks up, you know, Once you back all the way out, keep the marks on. Back home, take off the marks, put it in the laundry basket, wash your hands, take shower, and then you can do your family. So you can present that in infographics. There are many other things happening today. Let's say, for instance, the use of AI. I would say think first. What do you want to create? Now then, step two, design a prompt, and then you feed in the prompt, get the feedback, read it, study it. Does it communicate your idea? Edit it, modify it. This is another stage. And then, of course, refine it and proofread it before sharing. So, if I could present this that would be a process infographics. So, geographical infographics could be that I'm explaining the usage of something. Let's say the usage of ChatGPT around the world. I can use that using color coding, using reds to be where it is most used, and then maybe white to be place where it is least used. So I can use color gradients. I can use transparency tools to determine the thickness of the red, and then lighten it on for the least use. You understand what I mean? And where it is not used at all, where it's not permitted at all, it will be 0%, and then that will be 0% red, meaning 100% white. All right. I hope this help you. So now, let's take this a step further, and then let's see. Now we have it is used for numbers, like these things I've mentioned. You have the infographics that are used to present numbers, used to present trends, used to present percentages, and it is used to present comparison. So timeline is used to show chronology, sequence of events, development over the time. It is also used for to explain each trend of issues, patterns, and the sequence of things. Let's just put that development over time. So yeah, let's keep it at that. Okay. Now we have geographical infographics. How is it used? Geographical infographics is used to communicate location, distribution. When there is, for example, if there is a disease spread over a certain period of time, you can use that. Flood risk, you can use that. Distribution, regional patterns, and we have the principles of effective infographics. Oh, am I going too fast? I feel I'm going too fast. Let's take it slow. Now, principles of infographics. A good infographic should be clear, should be accurate, should be visually balanced. Yes, should be easy to interpret. So, an infographics fails if audience misunderstands the information. Yes. Now, simplicity in visual communication is very important because it helps you avoid overcrowding, excessive color use of colors, complex labeling, too much text. It avoids that too. It's very important that you keep things simple in your visual communication because complexity reduces communication efficiency. So don't use too much text, minimize text in infographics. In fact, I would say as and the lesser the text, the better the more effective it is. The use of color, charts, bar, contrast is very important. So don't use excessive. You simplify color. You can use shade of the same color. You can use light green, dark green, love light well, what do I call it now? Lemon green, whatever kind of green, leaf green. You can think about all of those things. All right. So now we have color and data interpretation. Color and data interpretation, it can help you categorize information, direct attention, and it can help you improve readability. Remember, categorize information, direct attention, improve readability. So red may suggest danger even when the data is neutral. Yes. So you have to be very intentional when you are trying to present your data and your choice of colors. Okay. Now you can as well use green to symbolize life and more. So now, but the misuse may lead to distortion, misinterpretation, and it can lead to confusion. Yes. So don't confuse your audience. Be very strategic. Be careful in your presentation of things. All right. Now moving on, we have typography in infographics. So you should ensure that you have some substantial knowledge in typography. Ensure that ask yourself the question: is this font, is this font family, typeface, is it readable? Does it maintain hierarchy? Does it support clarity? And if it does, then you are there. Decorative fonts may reduce comprehension. Avoid it in infographics. It is actually hardly necessary for you to use decorative font because they are mostly not useful in the case of infographics, except where the font family is very important in communicating the idea. Yeah. All right. So now, okay, I'll give you a clear idea about that. There are some fonts that depict blood. So if, for example, you're trying to communicate something that has to do with blood, if the fonts may give you an idea, it may give the feeling or support your communication. So be intentional in your use of fonts. Yeah. All right. So now, data accuracy and verification is very important. You need to verify your data. You're communicating, you're minimizing. You have to ensure that you're accurate and everything you're presenting is verified and not misleading. So infographics must use verified data. It must cite sources clearly when in fact it's most times it is needed. I won't say where needed. Most times it is needed. So you have to ensure that it is visually attractive. You understand? So a visually attractive infographics can still communicate false information if the information is wrong. So take note of that. A visually attractive infographics can still communicate false information. I'll take it one more time. A visually attractive infographics can still communicate false information. That it is beautiful, it is nice, it is appealing to the eyes does not mean it is accurate. You understand? A recognized organization can still mislead the public if they don't do the due diligence. So you need to be sure that what you're looking at as a source and you're able to verify such sources. Okay, so like I mentioned, even an organized production company, if they miss their mark of doing the due diligence, they can still fall victim of misleading the public. So you need to be sure that as a professional, you tick all your boxes and you're able to meet the minimum requirements so you don't mislead the public. So misleading infographics could mislead through truncated graphics designs. It could mislead through distorted scaling. It could mislead through selective statistics. You understand? So when they select statistics to influence what people think. So I would give an example of distorted skills. Okay, I don't need to do that in this video. Perhaps in another short video I'll provide that. So when you change the scale of measure, then the numbers don't match up. So that's distorted scaling. And truncated graphics means that when it is unclear, it's broken, and more selective statistics, you just deliberately pick certain numbers because you have something that you have preconceived that you want to influence. So now we have emotional framing of things, and your use of words or use of colors can also influence what you communicate and how people understand it. So visual manipulation can influence public opinion in a very subtle way. It can influence public opinion in a very subtle way. All right, taking this further, we have case study in Nigerian media, which I'm going to present shortly. I will be considering two of the listed three channel Sponge, and we'll look at election coverage. All right. In the instance of election coverage, we can see at the very first glance, you know who is leading in this case. This is presenting presidential election in a particular state, military state. You see, the most important thing is the keywords such as the place where the information is being communicated to. For example, most important thing anyway is first, what is this infographics about? That is where you have the words 2023 presidential election. Where is it where is it about? Is it Plato's things? And then present the message. So that's sort of how it works. I hope this helps you. All right. Now we'll go on to the next one, which is another one presenting similar thing. You just keep things very simple. The data, the name, the what it is about. Keeping the words, who, words, where, when, leave the why. You should be thinking about the why, and then you can find the why in the details of the story. All right. So, and then for geographical infographs, you can see something like this. So, this is an example of geographical infograph. It provides a clear cut, and it says it gives you color coding. They call it legend. Color code is called legend. Legend gives you the color coding for which person. So yellow stands for somebody. That is it. Be that yellow or orange line. Yeah, stand for somebody. We have the pink in one standing for somebody, and then the light, the powder blue one standing for somebody. And then you have the key code, house of rep, and more. So they were able to communicate as much as possible within just one image. So you can try your hands on some of these things to see how well you can do. All right, you can share with me if you want some feedback at any point in time. So this is yet another geographical infographic showing all of the since Tinubu wins its presidential election, and then it shows us how he has won across the country using color code. His party blue showing how where he won, and then PDP, the places where PDP won, and then where LP won. So you could imagine if they had to make a forecast about anything today, they could say a measure of two parties could conquer the other. I'm not making any implication. I'm just sort of from this infographic, I can even make some predictions that if this A and B comes together, it can be more than this. You understand what I mean? So moving on. So audience psychology and visual trust is very important. So people may question written claims, but they can believe charts immediately because it is based on data. So audience often trust visuals faster than text. Why? Because faster cognitive processing is explains our perception of objectivity, and then they perceive that it is objective because infographics are data based. They are presumed to be database. So if the public is trusting you as a journalist to provide us with the truth and you're falsifying, then you be an irresponsible person. I believe I'm teaching responsible students who will become change makers and leaders in the industry who all uphold ethics of the profession. So visual authority effect is also another thing, believing that visuals is powerful. No, so people may question written claims, but they hardly question charts. Okay, so now what are the tools that I use? In recent time, we have artificial intelligence and automated visual data visualization. We have the Power BI by Microsoft, and we have other softwares. Canva can do the same. You can try your hands on that. When I have some time, I can record a short videos to guide you on that. But AI tools cannot generate, but then you can generate charts, you can generate dashboard, you can generate automated infographics based on whatever you feed it. But there are some limitations. Sometimes it has blindness to context, it has poor narrative judgment, and then it's risk there's a risk of inaccurate visualization. So you need to ensure that there is humanness into it. You add your humanity into it. You ensure that you check it and you do the right thing so that you don't mislead people. I hope that helps you. Okay. Now moving it on, it's time for you to ask me a question. Put your question in the chat. Put your question, scan the QR code and ask question. Remember, questions are very important. They are evidence of your engagement, evidence that you were in class, evidence that you're understanding, evidence that you want to know more. So please ask questions. So I'll just make that a full script for you if you want to. Yeah, scan to ask. All right, thank you for that. So we'll move on to the next thing. So we have a newsroom practical simulation, which we could have done if we had some time. This exercise sort of stimulates how data journalism workflow works, editorial collaboration, platform-specific communication, and it encourages audience-centered sort of design, simplicity, and verification. If you have a look at what I'm presenting to you now, you see that you're meant to be divided into editorial teams like you are already. So um, just take note of this. I will let you know when to start this, and then each team you'll receive a data set. You break it down into scenario, and you have an audience target, and then designer. Your task will be to create one infographics for Instagram, one infographics for newspaper, and one infographics for a news website. So screenshot this, save it. I'll give you further instruction on this. All right. So, and then your deliverable will be a visual draft, editorial explanation of your infographics, and the data verification notes. So that is very important. I'll give you a clear instruction on how to submit that. So if you're yet to connect on Google Drive, I'm sorry, Google Classroom, so start your process. I'm aware that the university platform allows only university email to join, so you can work that out. Okay. Best wishes on how to do that. If you have any troubles with that, please contact ICT. Thank you. So these are practice exercise that you need to do. So you should analyze an infographic. This is an independent task. You do it on your own. So possible you look at the strengths. You understand the strength of the infographics, the weakness of such infographics, and the biases that you can find in such infographics. The biases that you can find in that infographics, and then you look out for the data clarity, if it is clear enough and easily comprehensible. You understand that, and now how effective this data is. So please take note of this and put it down. Why you've put that down is to be good for you to also put down the previous one down. Um, this is the previous one. Yeah, put this down. So I think it will be very important for you to put it down. All right, thank you for doing that. So now I want to share some things with you and some very important things that I believe you shouldn't miss out in this particular session. You should for you to know that every editorial decision changes how reality is understood. And editors do not merely process information, they shape public interpretation. The second thing is that in a modern media, clarity is power. The ability to organize information visually, you know, sort of it strongly influence how people notice, trust, remember things. You know, editorial decisions determines what audience get to know, how they get to understand it, and how they get to interpret it, and that impacts trust and what they remember. So all the also audience perception is rarely accidental, and behind every effective media message is a deliberate editorial and visual communication strategy. So behind every effective message is effective, and you can remember it sinks into your head is because there was deliberate, there was intentionality on the part of editorial team, and there was a visual communication strategy in place. So there is an assignment for you. So find one infographic from a newspaper or social media news platform like I don't want to mention any platform. So analyze it for accuracy, visual clarity, intentional flow, color usage, and possible bias or manipulation. And then with this, I'm going to be collecting this assignment. I'll tell you how I will be doing that, and that will be through the Google Classroom. So in our next lesson, we'll be considering digital publishing and multi-platform editing. And before we go, I would like to summarize our key takeaway from today, which is infographics simplify complex matters, and it also help visualize to shape understanding in a very fast and efficient way. So also accuracy remains very essential in media and mass communication. So it remains very important. So you have to ensure you prioritize accuracy. Then we have data visualization of information. So poor visualization can mislead audience. So do not um design or put out poor visualization. And the next thing is for you to ensure that you understand the fact that design and journalism they work together. You shouldn't, the creative work have to stand on the principle of journalism, work with it, and ensure that it is in truth, it is fair, it is balanced, it is clear, it is objective, and it is relevant. So it's time for you guys to check out. So now, and then we'll be good. So good layout is not just noticed. Yeah. So poor designs are impossible to ignore. Don't forget that. And I would say visual communication is powerful precisely because audience processes quickly. So that power requires responsibility. So be responsible, designers, be responsible journalists. So on this note, I'll say thank you and I will see you in our next lesson.